So again, welcome everyone to tonight's webinar. We thank you for taking this time out of your evening to join us on this special presentation that we're calling our 8th grade kickoff to college. You may be a student on the meeting tonight, but you also could be the parent. So we welcome both of you because we hope that we can share very key information to guide you through the steps of high school as you're preparing for college. We know this is a very critical time of year for you as you're making this next big step to high school. So again, thank you. We're going to get started and I'm going to introduce my colleague to you, Tequila Hall. Tequila, would you like to say hello before I start with this slide?
Most certainly. So my name is Tequila Hall. I'm your regional representative for 336. So if I have anybody here who's from my area, and also all of our guests, just welcome. We're so excited to have you. We can't wait to share some amazing information with you to make sure your students are ready for the next level to get prepared for college.
Cool deal. Thank you, Tequila. And I am Amy Denton, the CFNC regional representative for Eastern North Carolina. Much of Eastern and Northeastern North Carolina. That's the 252 area code region. We're going to share with you later today in the presentation who all of our reps are and the ways in which you may contact them. But primarily, we'd like for you to start with your school counselor or your representatives there at your school because they know how to get in contact with us to make sure we can answer your questions if they cannot. So let's first start by saying who is and what is CFNC? You probably have heard of us. You probably have been working with CFNC.org in your schools. Maybe your schools have sent communications home to you as the parents. Know this, we are a comprehensive website, CFNC.org, made up of the input from the 6 entities that you see on this wheel on the right. We could not do all that we do without each of those collaborators helping us make sure that we support you in this process of deciding what your next steps may be after high school graduation. We welcome families always to visit our site, to call our telephone call center, and we also accept emails too. So the telephone number is listed here on the screen. And no, as I mentioned a moment ago, as Tequila alluded to as well, we have 7 field representatives, regional reps based on area code in North Carolina. So we're working with your students' schools, elementary, middle, and high school along the way. And keep in mind too, we're completely free. What we're doing tonight for you is free. The service that we provide to your counselors and your principals and you and your students, completely free because we're here to make sure that we can help you plan, apply, and pay for college. So let's talk about some very basic information to begin with of why school is so important. And I want you to think about this. I'm sure that you've been asked over time, what's your favorite thing about school? Or parents, what do you see is your favorite thing about your student attending school? And sometimes it's interesting when we ask this question to the students when we're in a classroom experience. Of course, this past year has been totally different than all the years before. But when we ask them, why do you go to school? Why do students go to school? These are some of the responses that we get. And they're, of course, good responses. To learn more than you know right now. To learn more than you knew last year. Of course, it's okay to go to school to see your friends, to play sports, to participate in all sorts of activities, whether it be your SGA, your band, chorus, art, whatever it may be, the fun things that you're showing your talents to experience those. And of course, you're building your resume, so to say, because one day you'd like to attend college. And we know college may seem so far in the future as an 8th grader or as the parent of an 8th grader, but think about it. High school is right around the corner. You've got a couple months before your student's going to be in high school. So now is the time to start preparing and think about these next few months as your student progresses to 9th grade. So let's talk about some tips for high school. You probably already know these. You've been reminded and you've heard of these things through your school counselors. Parents, you've probably been pushing these to your student. But we know once schools are back in session full time, and we certainly hope that may happen this fall, going to class and attending school is important. That makes a big difference. And that information is recorded on your school transcript. How many days you've been absent from school. Colleges look at that type of information, believe it or not. That is reported on a transcript so a school can see that, college can see that. You may have already been building your study habits, but certainly maintain them, establish them if you've not already, and make them count starting in 9th grade. College preparation doesn't begin the 12th grade year or the 11th grade year. It starts in your 9th grade year, because everything that you do and your student will do in 9th grade will count all the way 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. So we know that you're sending your student to school, and we know students on the call tonight, you're going to school to learn, and you know that your teachers are there to help you along the way, but we want you as parents to reinforce learning at home too. That's a big key step in making sure that you're there to support your student, and your student sees that and they know that you're teaching them good habits and reinforcing a good study environment. All of those things and so many more can certainly support this tip for high school, is to reinforce the learning. Talk about careers and going to college. Don't let that just be those school counselors at your school. Talk about them at dinners, watching TV, sitting outside. What would you like to do as a career? What would you like to do after high school? And maybe college choices. Talk about all those things too at home. And of course, always encourage your student to do your best and their best. We know that that's happening. And you set an example for your student so they can see how good you're behaving, so to say, and your encouragement. So they'll see the same thing and they'll want to be the same way. Making sure that you're taking the right classes. And we know part of this responsibility will be your middle school guidance counselors, your school counselors rather, to make sure that you're enrolled in the right classes going into 9th grade. Soon enough, heading into 10th or 11th grade, some of you may begin to take, college classes. If you're at that level, school counselors may recommend that you start taking the right classes. Parents, you get involved in this process too. And be serious about those grades. And I've added here, even that first year of high school, we can't reiterate enough. Everything you do starting 9th grade counts. And I can promise you, having come from an admissions background where I admitted students to the college where I worked, and of course, I reviewed transcripts and I reviewed admissions criteria for students. I looked at that 9th grade, that 10th grade, and I always like to see a progression of growth in their grades. If there were dips, I could understand why, because I can see the classes that the student was taking. But always be serious about grades beginning that first year of high school. And certainly get to know your school counselors and teachers. Sometimes I ask students at like career fairs or college fairs when we were on site with schools, and I always ask, who's your school counselor? And it's amazing sometimes how those students cannot tell me who their school counselor is. And there could be many reasons behind that. But one thing is, you be proactive enough to get to know them, because they're there to support you as well as your teachers, and certainly parents, you at home. Ask your counselors, ask your teachers where they went to college, how they chose their career pathway. That's another interesting aspect, because you may be sometimes in a career pathway like them, and you totally change your mind in college. You may change your major 2 or 3 times, and it be something far, far different from when you initially thought you were going into college, be it 2-year college or 4-year college. And again, attend meetings like tonight. This is through CFNC, of course, but as your school may be hosting parent and student meetings, whether they're virtual or eventually in person again, be very involved with what is going on so you will know that you can best prepare your student. And they're going to share important things at these meetings. Otherwise, they would never host them. So making sure that you attend very important meetings at school will be very helpful. So we talked a lot about in school and grades and performance and starting in 9th grade. What else can you do? So be very involved with whatever it is that you love, whatever it is that you have a desire to do. If you don't know what that is right now, that's okay. I certainly didn't when I was in 8th grade. All I ever did was babysat my neighbors. I never really thought about being very active in school or my community or outside of my church. But think about that you need to be very well-rounded. Colleges like to see beyond just grades. They like to see beyond test scores. So learn ways in which you can help others. Sometimes you may be asked by college admissions and or scholarship committees, tell me a little bit about yourself and tell me how you've done something to help someone else. So it could be community involvement. Maybe you've been very active in your local community. Your community at large could be the state of North Carolina in some sort of activity or involvement. Activities of helping your next door neighbors. Maybe you're just going over and mowing the grass, or you're bringing in your neighbor's groceries as they're being delivered, or she's going to pick them up. Whatever it may be, find something you enjoy and stick with it. And the same applies to any type of activity there at school. Colleges don't like to see the number of activities you're doing. They like to see the activities you're doing and you're involved with how serious you are, what types of leadership roles that you have taken in those activities. Not just your 12th grade, not just your 11th grade, starting in the 9th grade. And I can tell you this, how impressive does it look to that college that a 10th grade student was named captain of their football team, be it the JV team or the varsity? That speaks volumes for a 10th grader to be named a captain over that 11th grader or that 12th grader. So things like that make a difference. And obviously, in that situation, for example, that 10th grade student proved himself as a 9th grade student, as a 10th grade, and now the coach says, you know what? He's leading our team. We want to make sure that he is showing his abilities and he's helping support the rest of our team. So stay involved, be well-rounded. A part of that may be taking interest in getting involved in some sort of student enrichment opportunity. At College Foundation's website, and I've circled there on the screen, the Plan Your Future section of the site, and going to college, we have student enrichment programs that you can do a search. We have tons of these activities based on the institution that you may have an interest. So for example, here on the screen, the ASU Forensic Science Camp. Maybe you have an interest in forensic science and you've chosen that as one of your filters on the left-hand side. Or maybe you just have an interest of taking some sort of camp on Appalachian State, which is in the mountains, on their campus. So you can do all sorts of searches by the filters that we offer here on the screen. So search for those programs that pique your interest right now. Maybe they're tied into a career field. Maybe it's just a talent that you have that you want to expand. Culinary arts, cheerleading, whatever it may be. So explore them, find an opportunity to pursue them, to find out whether you think they would be good for you to continue, or maybe you've just decided that, you know, I'm no longer interested in that. So what is next? You're progressing toward 9th grade, taking the right classes, developing good study habits. You're talking to your counselors and your teachers. Parents, you're encouraging environment of learning at home. You're thinking about career options. You're exploring your enrichment opportunities. So where we'd like to take you next, if you haven't been to our site, CFNC. This is a screenshot here of some of the most important parts of our website: planning your future, applying to college, paying for college, and saving for college. So we're going to walk through some of these things right now. This slide, the Take Your Right Steps Toward College, 1, 2, 3, 4, is a little bit of a review of what we've just talked about. But all of us who have been to college after high school, whether it's been a 2-year school or 4-year school, we had to think about first what we'd like to do one day as a career, as a job. What types of skill sets do we have? What types of interests do we have? Before we could get to that next step of achieving this career or having that job. So number one, we like to say, you need to learn about yourself first. And how do you learn about yourself? Some of the things we've already talked about, you're expounding upon some of your interests, but also under our career section of the website, you can take some assessments, these little inventories, we call them, answering questions about who you are. And at the very end of each of these assessments, you get a list of careers to match your interests, to match your skill sets, that may be ideas of you becoming one day. I can promise you, as many times as the regional reps, we do this with students in the classroom, the students get excited. They like to see all the different options. You know, the blinders come off, all the options become open of what maybe I can do one day, careers they never even knew were careers. So that's one thing that we tell students first. Learn about yourself, learn who you are to map out a career pathway. And then, of course, that's going to guide you to the right institution that can help you train and help you learn and get a degree program to go out to obtain that job or that career. So that's a little bit of part of exploring careers and checking out the colleges. We do have, under the Plan Your Future section of our site, this wonderful timeline. We've started in 8th grade, and it goes all the way through your senior year plus. But for right now, I'm just showing you through your senior year. And for example, here as a 9th grader, we've got 3 very key options for students progressing into their first year of high school. Checking what the college entrance requirements are. That's super important. You can't wait till your senior year of high school to find out what the admissions criteria are at Chapel Hill or at Duke University or Wake Forest or Barton College. You need to know starting in 9th grade to make sure every year you're taking the right classes to get to that point. Parents, learn about ways to start saving for college now. Learn about what financial aid is. We've got a section completely devoted to that on our website, and making sure that you know that one day your student achieving their dreams of going to college, whatever that may be and whatever that may look like, you'll be best prepared financially by understanding more and more about your financial options as you progress forward. And a part of that may be helping you save for college. And again, we've already talked about maybe some summer activities, building your resume. Remember, all of this planning will equal success in high school. We're going to look at this point, a very new revised tool. It's not new, but we've totally revised it once we launched our new website back in the fall. It's the college search feature. Very similar to what I just shared with you about thinking about who you are and building your career interest. Before you could pick that institution, you need to know, do they offer that major, you know, that program of study that you have to declare once you get to college. You do have some time, your first year of school, to decide really what types of interest you have and pathways, and your advisors in college will help you with that. But starting getting an interest now in the types of colleges, the college search feature on CFNC can help you. We have all these filters on the left-hand side. Once you select all the filters that are most interested to you, the results will pop up there in the middle of the page. And you can see at a very quick snapshot the cost of the institution, how many students attend the college. You can click right here, look, and see on the map where the college is located. Maybe you never knew that we had 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 college in the western part of North Carolina. Maybe you never realized we had the number of colleges we do on the coastal section of North Carolina. So you can find out where the college is located to help you begin building, narrowing down, I guess you could say, or maybe building up your list of college interests and which colleges best fit who you are. That may change over time, but starting out with the college search will build that for you. And another thing, you're thinking about careers. You're thinking about, where can I go to college in North Carolina to obtain that degree? What type of college will offer me the degree program to reach that career goal of mine? So part of that is going to be all the admissions criteria that college will require of you. Some of that will be test scores. If you're planning to go to a 4-year college in North Carolina, parents, you know this. Most all of our colleges will ask for some sort of standardized test, be it the ACT or the SAT. So we do have at College Foundation's website prep test. There's nothing wrong with your student as a ninth grader going ahead and starting this to see what the number one, either of those exams will be like, to get an idea of the types of questions that may be asked of your student when they do begin to take the real deal test. Because those real deal tests, their scores will count as far as admissions criteria to college and as far as scholarship opportunities to college. So we offer this on CFNC's website too. And a part of those college entrance requirements, they're going to vary. We have 3 different types of institutions in our state. Number one, what we call the private colleges. And you've probably heard that term before. You know, the colleges like Duke University is private. Barton College in Wilson is private. Meredith College, the all-female school there in Raleigh, that's private. We have 36 of the independent colleges in North Carolina. The word independent simply means they're private, okay? Those admissions criteria for those schools will vary all over the board. It's not one set standard. You have to have this GPA. You have to have these test scores. Those private institutions can set their own admission standards. Where do you find that information out? You're just going to have to go to their websites or find it out through College Foundation's college search feature. When you get the results that pop up in your search filters and the results, you can click on those institutions to find out so much more information. See pictures of their campus, take virtual tours of their campus, find out what the admissions criteria may be, all this and so many other details. So with 36 private schools, number 2 and 3 are considered our public campuses of North Carolina, which simply means the state of North Carolina and your taxpayer dollars help support those institutions, our community colleges and the UNC schools. We have 58 community colleges. So there's a community college probably in your back door, be it in your county or a county next door to where you live. 58 2-year community colleges that you can obtain certificate programs, 2-year degrees, other types of skills to go out to be employed by a particular employer that's asking for a skill set. So many different things our community colleges in North Carolina can offer you. They're all on CFNC. And then thirdly, those UNC institutions like NC State, UNC Chapel Hill, Fayetteville State University, Elizabeth City State University. There's 16 of those. They're all on CFNC's website. The community colleges are an open door policy. So as long as you have a high school diploma or an equivalent to that diploma, GED or a AHSD, adult high school diploma, you can be admitted to a community college. And you don't even have to have test scores like the SAT or the ACT. The UNC system, they do have standards because they're public and they're partly governed by the state of North Carolina. You'll see here on the screen some of the course requirements. You have to have so many units of English and math, science, social science, foreign language. And they all require you to have a minimum GPA and a minimum test score. But I can certainly tell you this. You see here on the screen where it says 2.5 cumulative weighted GPA. That is the minimum requirement for any of our 16 UNC schools. A GPA is your grade point average. That will start building for you when you enter the 9th grade. But I can promise you, Chapel Hill will not admit you with a 2.5 GPA. ECU may not admit you with a 2.5 GPA. This is just the minimum standard. So every one of those 16 UNCs can have any standard above the minimum. So some may say you have to have a 3.5. Some may say you have to have 1200 SAT score. You'll learn more about how the scores are tabulated and a little bit more about how the GPA is tabulated as the student progresses through high school, whether it's considered weighted or unweighted, okay? At this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Tequila, and she's going to pick up with sharing the rest of the presentation with you. And again, continue to remember to put information in the chat as we go along. Tequila?
Thank you so much, Amy. Well, I'm excited to be with you guys and to share some information with you. And I'm going to let you do some work. I want you to be a little bit interactive here. I know you've been sitting and enjoying all the information, but I want to ask you some questions. So, one of the things I want to talk to you about is financial literacy or financial wellness. So, I'm going to pause for a moment and I want you to put in the chat, what do you think, or what comes to your mind when you hear financial wellness? And I want you to also tell me, what are you doing right now to help make sure your students are financially fit? I know they're eighth grade, and I have a eighth grader myself, so I won't tell you all my secrets, but what are you doing right now to prepare your students financially for the future? So I'm going to give you a moment. Amy's going to be looking at the chat and I'm going to tell you about some amazing tools that we have on CFNC to help your students get ready for the future. So I see some people putting some information in. Oh, wow.
Starting at 529, that's a good way.
Great, great, great.
Teaching kids how to save, that's another great way. Absolutely.
Awesome. Keep them going, keep them coming, because we definitely want to know. How many of you have kids who are actually earning some of their own money? So let's say eighth grade, you might have some kids babysitting. So I think Amy mentioned that.
Yeah.
You might have some kids who are mowing the lawn. They're doing some things to help prepare themselves for the future. And so we want to make sure your students are thinking about, what they're going to do after they leave home. They are leaving home, right? I tell my boys all the time, I have two boys and I have a rising ninth grader. So as we're talking this evening, I'm not just talking to you because, I'm working for College Foundation, but I'm talking to you because I'm right there with you, eighth grade, 4 years. We're counting down. And we want to make sure that our kids are ready. So let's talk a little bit about financial basics. So on CFNC, we have an amazing tool to make sure your students understand financial wellness. We want them to make sure they understand well money management. So how to be responsible with your money. So a lot of times when I'm doing a financial literacy course, I always tell students, think about, your source of income. So where are you getting money from? Which is why I was asking you guys. So they're getting money for you. Maybe they just got their third quarter report card. And, for my kids, we give them, money, for how hard they've worked. My boys, they earn money during the summer for doing chores. So what are your kids' source of income? So how do they earn money? And then the second part, when we think about financial literacy or financial wellness, we not only think about where they're getting money, but what are they spending that money on? Now, I love some of the things I saw in the chat because some of you are saying, oh, my kids are saving or I'm saving for my child's future, and that's great. So, we want kids to understand the concept of budgeting, creating a spending plan, even if that thing changes, down the road. And we also talk a little bit about goal setting, short-term and long-term goals. So, one of the things that my son, my eighth grader wants is he wants some new game equipment. So some of you might be smiling, as you know, video games is a big thing right now. So he wants a new game chair. And so, I'm thinking, what can you do to help meet that goal? So you have a goal in mind, but how can you, save your money so that you can meet that, obligation, or what I say is not really a need, it's a want. So on CFNC, we do have a course, it's called Financial Basics, and it does help students to learn about well money management. So we start very early on with helping them understand about financial health, choices about money. We talk about protecting your financial identity. So I like to say that's your financial report card. In the future, your students, are going to want to get a car. They're going to want to buy a house. But all these big concepts start from what they learn at home with you. So the small things, saving for, a video game or saving for something, that they want. Maybe they want to have an activity out with their friends and they want to go ride go-karts, and they're setting small goals. But we have 15 different high school course topics that they can take. Now they can take financial basics next year and they can learn about, financial wellness. But one of the things that they can do if they continue on is when they get in the senior year, we're going to allow your students, if they score 80% or better on our course, to be considered for a $500 scholarship. So you're going to have to come back to see us when we do the kickoff, preparing for 12th grade to learn about that. But here's some other things that we just want to make sure that you're, your understanding. How do we help make sure your students are financially prepared for the future? Next slide. So here's another activity for you. So my colleague did a lot of talking with you about, preparing for the future, preparing for college, thinking about the college your student wants to go to. And we do want students to have at least 3 or 4 serious colleges that they're going to be applying to in senior year. But, so that we can prepare for what they might want to major in, we want them to start thinking about what career they might be good at. So right now, your students might be really good at, math. So there are a lot of careers that, your students might be able to go into that use math. They might decide they want to go into accounting, or your students good with math, they might be good with engineering. So think about the things that your students are interested in right now. So maybe they have hobbies, that might equate to a career. So I think that a career can be, monetarily fulfilling, but also enjoyable. So we have some activities on our website for your students to learn about themselves. So when we looked at the 4 things that, Amy talked about to get prepared, the first one was learn about yourself. So most of the career assessments on our website take anywhere from about 10 to maybe 25 or 30 minutes. And so they can learn information about careers that they might want to consider they've never thought about, or learn more about a career they're already interested in today. Now here's a career profile that you see here on our screen. It's going to give your students a lot of information. And one of the things that's going to help your student to understand is, what is this job all about? What is the nature of the work? What are the duties of the job? What am I going to be doing every day? It's also going to help your student understand, do I need college for this particular career? And if I do, how long do I need to go to college? It's also going to tell your students how much money they can make. Now, we always say, we start off with entry level and help your student understand that's not the most money they'll ever make. So this is just starting out. And the more experience and the more training they get in that profession, they can potentially earn a little bit more. And we also look at where they're going to be living, because depending on where they're going to be living, the amount that they can earn may be different. So lots of great information here. And, another thing that's really important is employment outlook. So where are these jobs going to be down the road? So is it a high demand field, or right now are we seeing that those jobs are, slowing down? We're not needing as many people in those areas. So as we're talking about careers, I want you to put in the chat, what career is your child or your scholar, let's say that. What is your scholar thinking about doing in the future? So what career are we thinking about in the future? Let's see. So we're going to pause this for a minute, Amy. Let's see. Put in the chat. What does your child want to do in the future? Teacher. Great. Education. That's a critical needs area. So we need more educators. Oh, yeah. Orthodontist. Great. What else? Keep it coming. I want to see. I can't wait. I'm going to need some of these folks in the future.
Marine biologist and an engineer. That's an architect.
Great. I see entrepreneur on my side.
Yeah.
Great. Meteorologist. Yes. Emergency room doctor. Great careers. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we also want your students to know, and I hope you remember one of the points that Amy mentioned earlier, is that we have lots of these enrichment opportunities for students to find out if that's a good fit for them. So we definitely want them to take advantage of those things. All right, and keep them coming. We're going to move to the next slide.
Cool deal. Those are some great ones.
Now, as we talk about careers, I also want to just share some other information. This is my favorite activity on CFNC. Oh, I say one of my favorites. And so it's called Reality Check. And so when you're talking to your scholar or your young adult, because I hate to say kid now, because they are, 13, 14 years old at this point. So Reality Check allows your students to think about the future. So I want you to think like your student would, okay? So I tell my students, I say, pretend that you're 25 years old. And they'll say, Ms. Hall, oh my gosh, that's going to be a long time from now. And it really isn't. It's going to be here before they know it. And they're going to be 25 years old. And I tell them, think about, what you'll be doing at 25. So hopefully by 25, you finish high school. You're probably, you probably finished college. You're working somewhere, hopefully, by that time. So I tell them, think about that. So what will you be doing at 25? And where do you want to live? And I always tell people nothing would be finer than to stay in North Carolina. So where in North Carolina do you want to live? And sometimes they'll say, Raleigh, I'm going to be in Charlotte. They read all these places that they want to live. And I'll tell them, I said, okay, now think really hard. At 25, do you think you're going to be single? You're going to be married? And they're like, oh, Miss Hall, I'm going to be single or whatever. But they're telling me all this information. And then it'll allow them to think about what their lifestyle is going to be like. And so they're going to have to think about, are they going to own their own home? Are they going to rent? Are they going to stay at home with you guys? Are they going to have their own car? How much is it going to cost them to eat? Are they buying clothes? What are utilities like? And this is a fun activity, even for you as a parent. And then it's going to say, okay, depending on what they put in here in the reality check, this is how much it's going to cost you to live. So I know I see some smiles out there. How much is it going to cost your young woman or young man to live? And will they need a reality check? So, we just talked about how they can find out how much money they can make in the career they're thinking about. But this challenges them to go a step further. So think about what career you're interested in, find out what you need to do to get into that career. But then think about how you want to live in the future. And do you need a reality check? So I want to ask you some questions, parents. Will your student be able to support himself or herself with the income from their desired career? Okay, so those are the careers we've been talking about. And will your scholar need a reality check? So we want them to think about what their needs are, what their wants are. Some of the times I talk to young men, they'll say, Ms. Hall, I want, a, a, a sports car. I'm thinking, oh, no, not at 25, not a sports car. So they're thinking, oh, I want this and I want that. So, this is a really good time to talk to your kids, do the activity, do it with them, and find out, do they need a reality check? Great thing to talk about at the kitchen table when you're having dinner. All right, so know before you go. Now, we want kids to know, if their career is growing. So, are they going to be able to make a good salary? So this is going to be important as they make the decision about the career they want to go into. So look at careers with the highest projected growth rate. So remember, we talked about employment outlook. So is this job going to be around in the future? Are you going to be able to find employment? Is it going to be, saturated? There's so many people there, that you're not going to be able to find a career. So check out careers with the highest projected number of openings. Now let's slow down a little bit. We're going to talk about paying for college. I know that, your students are getting ready to go to high school, and I can't believe, I'm so excited for you guys. I'm so excited for your students. And, now's a good time to think about, how are you going to pay for college? In the chat, I saw several people saying, we have a 529, we have this set aside to help pay for college. And so there are some awards out there where they're available for students, younger than senior year in high school. Now, what I want students to do is to start thinking about, how are they going to help you pay for college? Most of the time when I talk to students, they'll say, Mom and Dad are going to pay for college, but I want your students to think about, how are they going to help you pay for their college? So one of the things that we talk about is the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. So you guys don't need to worry about that today, but in the future, that's something that you and your students will do in senior year if you want to be considered for things like federal state grants, federal loans, federal work study. Some schools also use that particular application to determine eligibility for institutional aid. So just keep that in mind. Not something you're going to do now, but I just want you to have heard that term, FAFSA, free. That means you're not paying anyone to help you complete it. And when you get to senior year, don't forget about CFNC. We have some amazing resources to help you. And then I want to talk to you about 4 main scholarship sources. So start looking to see what scholarships are out there. What scholarships do your students want to apply for in the future? So we want to think about what things are local. So we're talking about local, work with your school counselor. And we talked about that just a little bit, because your school counselors are going to know things that are specific to your school or your county, your area. They're going to know about scholarships that come across their table. So that can be national awards. They're going to be telling you a lot of scholarships that they've worked with over the last several years. And then as we talk about state-based, of course, CFNC, so CFNC.org, we have an amazing database of scholarships on our website. So make sure that you're looking at that information. Institutional is the third one. So visit the college's websites that your students are interested in. Now remember, when we see your student as a rising senior, okay? So I want you to come back and visit with us. So when we see your student as a rising senior, we need for them to have at least 3 or 4 serious colleges that they're considering. And we want them to go ahead and visit the college websites and find out, what types of awards are available at that school. So what are some of the scholarships that those schools are talking about on their site? So you want to look at the financial aid office page or financial planning office's information. You want to look at those pages. And then of course there are some national scholarships. So as we talk about national scholarships, they are attainable. They are obtainable. So your students can obtain those particular awards, but they're more competitive. So you're not just competing with people in your city or your town, but also in your state and other states. So they're available, but want to make sure that your student is, of course, meeting exceeding deadlines. That's going to be important. So here's a list of just some national scholarship websites that we have available. So FastWeb, you might have heard of that. College Board, Peterson's is a great website. All right. So as I mentioned to you before, pay for college. You'll see pay for college on our website. We also have a scholarship search. So if you're just interested in seeing what scholarships are out there, we do have an area where your students can refine their search. They can look at scholarships based upon various criteria. So they might want to look at scholarships based upon your county. So you can see right here, we have lots of different things related to county. It could be based upon college type, just to give you a few examples. So here you'll see some details. So it's going to tell you about the award. It's going to tell you how to be considered for it, the deadline, and it's definitely going to share with you how much the award is. And one of the things I want to tell you that I usually say when I'm talking about scholarships is a lot of times students are looking for those huge scholarships, those large scholarships, but your student can get several small scholarships that can end up allowing them to have still a good amount of money to prepare for college. So don't just look at, the big ones, but look at some of the small ones as well. Now, saving for college, this is really near and dear to my heart. And I love that I saw some parents say, 529, saving for college. And as we think about saving for college, most families will have to pay at least a portion of their children's education. And so we want to make sure that your family is planning ahead, and we don't want you to be stressed about what future costs may be. So definitely, we are responsible for doing all the servicing for North Carolina's National College Savings Program. So we're going to share some information with you about that plan too. But that allows you to save for all different types of qualified educational expenses. So we're talking about things like tuition, fees, room and board, books, supplies, other equipment. So save what you can. So this could just be a piece of the puzzle, because right now we don't know if your students are going to get, scholarships that pay for everything, but you definitely want to put aside something. And then, of course, if you're able to put aside more, you certainly can. You don't have to save all by yourself. Aunts and uncles sometimes like to save. We have lots of grandparents that like to help prepare your student for the future. So I want to talk to you about some upcoming events. So I don't want you to visit with us just one time. I want you to come back, all right? If you go to our website, or should I say when you go to our website, because I know you're going to want to go to our site to learn about some of the upcoming events that we have. So if you visit cfnc.org/events, we are having an event just to talk to you about what I just stated, saving for the future. So on May 13th, you can come back and visit with Amy and myself, and we're going to talk about springing to saving, plant a seed with the NC 529 account. So we're going to talk about the ins and outs of how to save for future expenses. So make sure you save the date. And then, of course, I heard some people say in the chat that they already have a 529 account. So we didn't forget about you. So if you already have a 529 account, you can come back and visit with us on either May 19th or June 3rd, and we're going to talk about 529 rules, how to use your 529 funds. So how to use the money that you save. And we're going to talk about what you need to do to withdraw that money. And then one of the best days of the year is 529. So you can celebrate with us on our 529 day. So be on the lookout. We typically do a drawing of some sort to celebrate, College Savings Day. So go to our website, look at our events. We hope to see you again. And don't forget to connect with us. So we are on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, as well as Instagram. So you'll see our handles at the bottom of our screen. So we're always providing, great content about career and college readiness. So we invite you to connect with us, whatever, social media platform that you prefer. And we want to make sure that we're sharing, the information to help prepare for the next level. So what we're showing right here is our YouTube playlist. So check it out. Great content. So if you missed out on some of the things that we've talked about throughout the year, I know it's been very busy with the pandemic. You can go back to our YouTube playlist and see some of the presentations that you missed out. Or if you want to just see it again.
And specifically, Tequila, the how-to videos.
Yes.
Like if you don't have a CFNC account yet, how to create a CFNC account. And down the road, you're going to learn more about how to submit your applications, how to send your transcripts. But maybe first of all, be thinking about creating your CFNC account if you don't already have one. It's pretty self-explanatory, but if you want to watch this quick video, you can under the how-to videos.
Yes, and it takes about 5 minutes roughly for your student to create a CFNC account. So if they don't have one, I'm going to give you a takeaway. So after you finish with this presentation tonight, I want you to be so excited about the information that we've shared. And I want your students to set up a CFNC account. And that's going to be so beneficial for them because, when they're ready to apply to college, they can use CFNC to apply to North Carolina schools. They can send their high school transcripts for free through CFNC. If they want to be considered for in-state tuition, in-state grants, of course, we'll be talking to them about residency determination. So there's lots of great things that their CFNC account can do for them in the future. So make sure you come back and visit with us. Lots of great information. We have a dedicated call center that can talk with you. So our toll-free numbers here, 866-866-CFNC. So again, 866-866-2362. Or again, visit us at cfnc.org. Amy, do you have any final thoughts? And make sure we didn't miss any questions in the chat.
I don't see any more questions in the chat, but if anyone has them, feel welcome to add them. And there's maybe one thing that I'd like to emphasize on what you shared earlier about the scholarship databases, Tequila. We always encourage parents. We encourage your student, even as that 9th grader, to jump on some of these national databases of scholarships like College Board. Go to bigfuture.org, go to fastweb.com, petersons.com, and go ahead and get your profile set up for some of these national scholarships. So you'll be in the running, so to say, as you progress through high school. Once the profile is set up, the database will search to find any scholarships that match your profile. It's pretty tedious to create those profiles, but that's the whole point. You have so many questions to answer about you and your family and your interest. If the profile is matching any of the scholarships, you'll be sent emails to make sure you know that these are options for you.
Right. And then we have a wonderful program that we're in charge of. It's called the North Carolina Forgivable Education Loan for Service. So there's some areas that are defined in North Carolina as critical needs. So we need more people in education. I think we mentioned that. We need nurses at all levels. We need individuals that are interested in allied health. And that's a great program. So if your students know that's an area they're interested in and, they agree to work in the state of North Carolina, we don't care, where in North Carolina. We have 100 counties in North Carolina. And so if they will agree to work in those critical needs areas in North Carolina, that would be great. And so it's a forgivable education loan for service, meaning that it's forgiven because they're meeting the service requirement.
And we do, Tequila, have one or two families asking about, will we have, they have access to this PowerPoint? And certainly after we've had a chance to clean it up and get our marketing company to post it to our YouTube, we will be glad to share it out to all of the attendees tonight. So we will be glad to do that. So you can get your hands on some of the same information if you want to review. And another question, Tequila, what about out-of-state schools? Maybe the question is, how does that work with financial aid? How does it work with scholarships? And or do we support them on our website? Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, we can tag team if you like. So on CFNC.org, Amy did mention to you how you're able to research colleges. And so not only are you able to research our North Carolina colleges, but we also make it available for you to look at schools nationally. So you can certainly do that. And then, of course, when we start thinking about scholarships, because we spent quite a bit of time talking about that. Now, the scholarships that you see listed, each scholarship can be different. So you'll need to see if they're specifying if it has to be used at a particular school, or not, or if it has to be, in North Carolina. So each scholarship will have, the criteria that they want students to meet, as well as what their stipulations of having the scholarship are. That they go to a school in North Carolina, that they go to a particular school, or it doesn't matter if it's, in-state or out-of-state.
I went back to this slide just so they could see some of the web addresses there for some of those national databases, if that was a little bit helpful for them.
Yes, and as we talk about the FAFSA, it doesn't matter if your students are going to school inside or outside of North Carolina. Everybody needs to complete the FAFSA to be considered for financial aid opportunities. And when we talk about that, so like I said, even, it's not just for grants, but also, loans, work study, you still need to do your FAFSA or free application for federal student aid. And remember, that's not until senior year. And from that point on, it'll be an annual application that you'll need to complete.
Cool deal. Well, I can't think of anything else, Tequila. I thank you all attendees, parents and students, for being a part of this tonight. And I hope you were able to gain some information maybe that you didn't know before, just like a reason why your students go to school, to learn something different that they did not already know. Tequila, I'll let you wrap if you want to say any parting words before we close out.
Absolutely. Well, like I said before, we're a delight to have you join us tonight. We hope that you're able to, get to the rest of your evening, spend some time with your family, and come back and visit with us again. So again, Amy, do you mind just dropping in the chat where they'll go to register for future events? So,
yes,
and if you are not able to make it to an event, then make sure you also tell somebody else. So if you can't make it, make sure you still share it with somebody that could find the information helpful. But we want all of you to come back, be with us again, and we look forward to working with you and your students in the very near future.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, guys.